What's up, guys? Kind of just continuing on from my snub nose revolver, getting into what the fuck is that? I don't know what this is. It's a magnet. Whatever. Anyways, I brought a bunch of stuff upstairs, so stuck to it. But this is my concealed carry pistol. This is a Tier 1 concealed MSP Pro Flex holster. This is kind of like stretchy shot cord. Allows the magazine to kind of move. Clips are adjustable. Belt goes through here. Keeps the pistol at appendix position, like this, right up on your belly. You get in the truck, you kind of lift your pants up a little bit, rest on your belly. You can still reach it while driving. You can, if this is right hand carry. Okay, right hand's injured, or some dumb person's yanking on my arm, I can't get to it. I can still, you can still get to it with your left hand in front of your body. So highly recommend that. So let's clear this out. So this is what it looks like. This is a hot firearm currently. Finger always off the trigger. Okay, especially my new shooters out there, always pay attention. This is completely safe direction. This is woods. Even if I blast around through my house, this is a safe direction. Okay, so this is a Glock. This is a Glock 19X in particular. This might not be best for you. It is best for me, and I've learned that just through shooting. So let's clear this and make it safer and talk about it. So this is your magazine release. Okay, so while holding the pistol, roll off, eject the magazine. This is a 17 round flush fit magazine that is full of Spear Gold Dot 124 grain plus P 9mm. For those of you that don't understand, grain is bullet weight. Be aware that most 9mm rounds in America are 115 grain, which I'm not going to hate on. You can kind of get into the philosophy of the ballistics on your own. Give me just a second. So magazine's clear. We're now going to clear this bullet. So you just reciprocate the slide to extract the round. I'm just going to cover that so it falls in my hand. And there's that. Spear Gold Dot 124 grain plus P. I just realized that these primers are not sealed, which is odd. Very trustworthy round, trusted by law enforcement. These things, fuck. They're good. So we're going to check this firearm together. Buddy check. I'd like to teach students to use fingers. If I'm being 100% honest, I don't. But I have a lifetime of... If I'm being honest, I don't. But I have a lifetime of experience behind firearms in both professional application as well as private and recreational. I like shooting trash in the woods with my friends. Eat shit. So, but for, again, these videos are geared towards a newer shooter, people that I recommend stuff to and I give instruction to. So a little bit of it's redundant, but you should respect it. And if we're being honest, most of you should do this too. But anyways, make sure there's no magazine in the magazine well. Use a finger, and same thing. Finger here, finger in the barrel. I don't know if this is going to adjust, but obviously there's no bullet in the barrel. This is clear. You can see all the way through because there's no magazine in it. This is a safe weapon, okay? I'm going to hit the slide release to let the slide forward. Now, some people don't have the thumb strength for that, as I've noticed recently, especially smaller-handed shooters, or they can't even reach it. So what you can also do on either a loaded magazine or just to clear the weapon, if you pull it back, that slide release will lower itself. That's under spring tension. So kind of getting into it, again, treating you guys like new shooters. This is how you start, with a safe, clear, empty firearm pointed in the safe direction, and we're going to talk about it. So the reason I chose this firearm in particular, I have extremely large hands. I'm over 6.5 feet tall, Viking blood. I look like a giant Ed Sheeran, okay? So what works for me doesn't always work for you, right? These are just broad strokes, help get you familiar, help you make decisions, and make the decision that's best for you. So the reason I chose this firearm, a couple things. I actually don't like Glock, and I'd like to rant about that for a second. Individually, anything and everything about a Glock pistol I don't like. So let's actually start here with the negatives, okay? Again, like even though we know it's clear, we've done it together, let's just double check. No mag, no round, we're clear. The trigger is hot garbage. So you can't feel this through a TV screen, right? But that right there is the trigger safety. You see that little dingus is what they're called, believe it or not. It's like a true story. That will keep the trigger from being depressed. Okay? So I'm pulling the trigger right now and it's not moving because that blade is not out of the way. So first you have to defeat that, which is laughable. I know that like sucks to say out loud. There's not a lot of attention there, but it is some resistance. Then we get to the trigger. And then it starts to creep. It's really grindy. And I've shot the fuck out of this pistol. I mean, I've put 3,000 through it, maybe. Which isn't like a record. I understand. I'm not $100,000 or 100,000 round Lucas Botkin Glock. I'm not worried about it. But I shoot this a lot. And the triggers do wear in. They do get better over time, but it's still garbage. And that's like still not going off. So you defeat the dingus. You begin to pull the trigger, and it's gritty. It just sucks. It's just garbage. It's just plastic. It's like picking a polymer nose. It's just wild. Like you're kind of just up in there. Everything kind of moves. It's just spongy. It's just garbage, right? And so we defeat the dingus, begin the trigger pull, which takes forever. And the whole time you're pulling that trigger, for an inexperienced shooter, I'm going to exaggerate this. You're pulling like that, and it's weird, especially if you're anticipating recoil. What a lot of new shooters will do is they'll jerk the trigger. Obviously I'm exaggerating that, but a millimeter here is a foot down range and you miss. So it's really hard for a new shooter to hold those sights on target, right? That's hard alone. You're moving, you're lining everything up, etc., right? But while pulling the trigger to keep that sight picture is a little harder with a Glock. I'm experienced with Glock. I've carried a Glock for years. I shoot them well. I can hit a 100-yard IPSC target, no problem standing. New shooters, it's kind of hard. Now, it's a blessing and a curse, and we're going to get more into it. I'm going to disassemble the pistol in a second. I'm going to show you. But the trigger's difficult. That's me pulling it. Like look how smooth like I am. Right? But that's me pulling it. Like, look how smooth. Right? If you hop on here and you're in a self-defense situation, you're doing all this, it just sucks. A couple other things, too. Really low bore axis, what that means is the barrel, okay, sits relatively low to the frame. So when you choke up in here and you get a really high grip, it keeps the recoil impulse low and more linear than up and snappier, which is desirable in such a way. But when you have big fat meat hook hands, if you don't train your grip, you can get slide bite, right? It's barely touching me, but it can get the web of your hand. And I do have fat meaty paws, probably more so than most people. And the reason I don't carry, you have extra back straps that come with the gun that go on here, and they can kind of extend this beaver tail out to protect that hand a little bit. But I carry this appendix, and I don't like that being inside of me, so I don't. I also appreciate the lanyard loop. This comes off pretty easily if you don't like it. A lot of guys talk bad about lanyard loops, and they are either ignorant or stupid. And there's no shame in ignorance, but there is shame in stupidity. So if you're a normal guy, you shoot at the range, and whatever, and you go home, you're not going to understand the lanyard loop, right? So you're going to be ignorant about that. Sorry. Other guys who either they train hard enough, or they're police, prior military, and have actually served in combat, you drop shit. You will drop things. You will drop yourself. You will drop your night vision. You will forget you've got nods on when you're 6.5 feet tall, walk through a door and about break your neck, knock your fucking teeth out. You fall down hills, you fall off of things, you climb walls, you fall off of walls. It's a lot like an episode of Jackass, but with body armor. It's wild. Combat environment's a very dynamic environment. A lot of things change. Being able to tether your pistol to your belt is a fantastic feature. I don't often do it for an appendix carry situation, but I see the utility in it. I do, however, on my duty belt, lanyard the pistol. Doesn't make a lot of sense in civilian application, doesn't make a lot of sense on the range. But if you fall down a hill in the woods and you lose your gun, it sucks. There's no two ways about it. A lanyard's not perfect, but it is a means to get that weapon. Furthermore, in a hand-to-hand combat situation, especially in a duty situation where your opposition is very likely not an unarmed crackhead, but a 40-year-old Middle Eastern bearded man with 10 years of wrestling experience, he's going to fucking kill you if you can't get your firearm. That's just reality. So being able to yank on that, potentially kick your opposition off, fight your opposition off, pull a firearm to you, is an advantage, right? It's all a net gain, and there's no weight gain with a lanyard. Makes a lot of sense. Kind of rabbit holing on that, it's really irrelevant to 99.999% of you. You really don't need a lanyard loop, but I explain why I leave it there. So I prefer a weapon mounted light. Nighttime is half the time. I see a shocking amount of FUDs and people that don't live in the real world and understand that nighttime is 50% of the time. Why would you not want the ability to see and light up a target? Okay? Many uses, many applications. I'll be honest with you. The first and foremost reason I use a flashlight, I use all the same light. I use a TLR1. I understand the X300's better, but it's like $1 billion, and it's like this long. It's retarded. It's like a bayonet. I'm not a big fan. So I use the TLR1 because I use universal holsters that index off the TLR1. Stand by. And so any pistol that takes a TLR1, and I might go get another gun and show this to you guys, it'll hold that pistol. It'll protect the trigger guard. If it's a longer slide, it'll just protrude. If it's threaded barreled, it doesn't matter. If it's skinnier, fatter, or whatever, it'll fit most pistols because I chose a... excuse me, burping, hiccuping. I'm trying to spare y'all from that. I enjoy that. I have less holsters than everybody else I know. I use less holsters. I use the same flashlight. I have one manual of arms, and it's familiar. When I'm training my self-defense drills and stuff, I always come up with the light on. And also, that's a hell of a force multiplier, especially if you're talking armed assailants. Like if this has come out, I'm probably facing armed opposition, if we're being honest. So low light, nighttime, or daytime, coming into a dark building, right? Like that's a huge force multiplier to be able to, is that a crackhead? Or is that my drunken neighbor's son breaking into my living room window because he thinks it's his house? I don't know. But it allows you to make an informed decision, right? Weird things happen. Unfortunately, a lot of people get shot, wrongfully in their own homes. Family members, whatever, poor training, right? Like, duh. But this allows me to have one weapon. Maybe I've got a flashlight. Maybe I've got a set of keys. Maybe I'm opening a door. Okay. So guys that carry a separate flashlight, like I get it. You can do the over method. That's cool. Tight. Get it. I'm not going to hate on you for it. But real world application and theory are different. A weapon mounted light is awesome. God forbid you're in an urban environment, you got a bunch of headlights pointed at you and it's blinding you. You can actually overcome and defeat lights and get a sight picture and defend yourself. Whereas if you're just rocking black plastic sights on a factory Glock like an idiot, it just is what it is. That's difficult, especially without a flashlight. So highly recommend you getting a weapon light. Highly recommend you make a decision early on what to get. Again, I go with TLR1. If you're into tactical gear and guns and gear, these take CR123 batteries, which are very common, very long life. Big fan of those batteries. So I have one battery, one holster, 9mm caliber, absolute hegemony for ammunition, and not so bad on magazines. Now, if you are a standard sized adult male, or particularly a woman, and you want to go with the double stack Glock 9mm, I highly recommend the Glock 19 over the 19X. So the 19 is black, and this grip is slightly shorter. Now, for me, that would be a disadvantage, right? My meat hooks take up the whole grip. This is a 17 round flush fit magazine well. The 19 is a 15. So it's just a touch shorter, which is easier for concealability and your magazine hegemony. So a gun that factory fits 15 round magazines can fit everything else that's longer. I cannot use 15 rounds or Glock 26 10 round magazines. So there's some thought process there. Utilitarian, durable, fantastic tools. If you think of this as an ugly rusted shovel, I can't talk shit about it. I can't. They're very durable. They work. Parts are available. They're easy to work on. You don't need any tools to really do anything. I mean, people talk about the Glock Armorer's tool. Bro, I just use like a screwdriver and a little bit of hate, and everything comes apart. I have no problem. But again, highly recommend a weapon light. I recommend the TLR1 HL. TLR7 is good. TLR6 is good if you go smaller. X300 is fantastic if you're a Giga Chad with more budget than brains. It's a superior flashlight. I'm not going to argue with you. Absolutely, but this works for me. This might look goofy to some people having the flashlight longer than the muzzle. It's intentional, actually. So, again, we're clear. Just double checking. If this is a little bit overkill considering I carry the snub nose in my pocket, but if you're on your back getting the shit kicked out of you, thank God you finally get your pistol out and you go to use it. Okay, so the light doubles as a standoff device. Like, get off of me, bro. Your breath is funny, right? Like, the weapon can still function. It's not a one-to-one. It's not a perfect solution, but it is kind of nice. So this gun, grip-wise, is the same size as a Glock 17. It is, however, a half-inch shorter of a barrel. And I don't know that I really cared about that. Honestly, I'm a big guy. Like, I carry a 5.5-inch FNX 45 tactical in my pants, so this is not a large pistol to me. But the smaller slide, a 4-inch slide for a 4-inch barrel opposed to half-inch longer, is slightly less weight, which helps with recoil. The weight of the light helps with recoil as the weapon operates and reciprocates. Pretty good option. So the 19X, another real big reason I like about it, it's a cool color. Looking cool is first, safety second. Like the color, but also it comes with metal, really nice night sights. Glock factory sights are absolute hot trash. I'm not really sure. My phone, this looks like I'm stupid, but like my phone is adjusting how it's looking at things. That's strange. But it looks cool, right? Looks good. Sights look good. They're very visible in low light situations. Again, if you're using a flashlight like an adult, it doesn't really matter if you have night sights. Just going to be honest with you. By the time you're carrying a pistol like this, you shouldn't even know what your sights look like, if I'm being honest. But again, that's neither here nor there. It is ambidextrous. The magazine release button can be switched through here. Flashlight, long screwdriver. You can swap it to the other side if you're wrong-handed. I am right-handed. But if you're wrong-handed, you're not out of luck, because you can swap the mag release and you can still operate the left side slide release. So good for you. Fantastic pistol. Glocks in general are very reliable. Again, think of it like a shovel that you really just need to dig a hole. And they work. Trigger's not the best, but they're extremely safe. What else I want to get into? So one thing I'm probably going to do is file off the bottom of this grip module right here to allow it to fit standard Gen 5 magazines. The Glock 19X magazine in particular is designed to fit without that lip, but a regular Glock magazine will actually hit that. So I'd like to be able to scrounge, borrow, steal from my friends, whatever, more magazines, and have a little more utility out of it. And I don't quite need that nub. I don't quite need it. So I think I'm going to do that. Besides that, it's a bone stock pistol. A lot of people modify Glocks. I don't, for a number of reasons. First and foremost, this already looks scary enough to a jury. I would absolutely, hate to smoke anybody in self-defense as a civilian. That's not on my wish list. But this is already hard enough to explain. In addition to my other gun, my other magazine, I don't want profanity all over it and stickers and Deadpool shit and Donald Trump's signature and a red dot and a bayonet and a grenade launcher. Like, you do you. On the accessory side, I understand Gucci guns. Like, everybody's got guns they like, that are fun, that like look cool or whatever. That's not what this is. This is a save my life, get home, fight to a rifle pistol. And that's the boxes that this is going to check. Once you get competent enough with marksmanship on a Glock pistol, another reason I recommend it as a starting point, everything else is a little easier to shoot. It's a hell of a tool to learn on. Maybe specifically for triggers, I would recommend a double action revolver for teaching a first time shooter, like a really heavy 22 LR double action revolver trigger pull. It's a fantastic teaching tool because you get used to holding those sights on target while slowly pulling the trigger and not jerking or pulling or, you know, anticipating and going muzzle down, it's a good teacher. But getting used to this firearm will make you, if you get really good with a Glock, you're just gonna be really good with everything else. You'll be a magazine away from being really confident with the firearm. So again, a lot of like little negatives that can be positives. Obviously, I complain about them. I still carry one because I'm stupid. It is what it is, but it is a very safe firearm. So we're gonna, let's clear again. This is how you take down a Glock. You pull the trigger. I don't know if I could show this, but that little lever, this little guy right here, on both sides of the firearm, after the trigger is pulled, you slowly pull the slide back. You pull this down, and then you let the slide forward. Maybe pull the trigger again if you engage the sear, but I'm going to do that off camera because I don't think they like that. All right, so we have two pieces. This is the slide. I'm going to put this in my pocket. We'll talk about that in a second. So here's the frame. And it might look complicated, I can imagine, to like a newer person. Again, that's who these videos are kind of dedicated towards. But it's really not, man. There's not a lot of moving parts. This is the trigger bar. So I can get my right, pull the trigger, that goes back. This is what hooks the firing pin on that flat metal tab. So when you pull the trigger, it just releases it and lets the firing pin go forward, fires around, reciprocates the action, and starts the party. But again, kind of getting into the safeties of this weapon. So we talked about the trigger safety, right? Like that dingus has to be depressed for the trigger to do anything. It's a little weird with the slide off. That's why it snaps back like that. It's just normal. But on the slide, we're going to talk about, see that little nub right there? That is part of the trigger action. Okay, so when you pull the trigger, put this frame in my pocket. Run out of pockets. Oh, you're welcome for that. So this is the firing pin. Okay, and the striker assembly. So I'm just taking the recoil spring out and the barrel. Okay, I just shot this yesterday. It's not clean yet, so it's probably pretty gross. It ain't bad. So when you pull the trigger, let's see if I can get this little hole. That little hole right there is where the firing pin comes out of. There it is. Okay. But this little button has to be depressed by that trigger bar we were just talking about, where the firing pin doesn't go forward, right? So another utility of the safety feature is the trigger has to be actuated, and that has to hit that button for the striker assembly to have enough energy to pierce a primer. In addition to that, it's rather difficult to illustrate this, but with the firearm loaded, this striker isn't very far back. It looks something like I don't know, like that, right? Even if it tripped, God forbid, like a bug gets in here, adamant, pushes on that, and like whatever the fuck, nothing's going to happen because you don't have enough energy. So part of the reason Glock triggers are trash is it doubles as a safety feature, because as you're pulling that trigger, the sponginess and the weight that you're feeling your finger is actually this being, let's see if I can get this in here, cocked more. You know, not quite all the way to the rear. It's a little hard to show, but you're pulling that back, kind of like a bowstring, right? So like as you're pulling the trigger, you're disengaging the dingus, you're pushing up on this button, and you're pulling the striker back in order to, you know, once it releases, it goes where it punches around, and then the action reciprocates and loads the following round. So a lot of things are happening that make this firearm, like, again, kind of suck. You know, if you're a really good shooter and you've moved on to crisper triggers and you run a PDP or any other pre-cock striker design, X5 Legion or whatever, going back to this, it kind of sucks. So it's a really big reason why I don't modify my carry gun. I do modify guns. I have guns that are completely ridiculous and stupid. I never trust my life to. But I just want this to work. I don't want to explain why I've got a gold trigger and a purple barrel and, you know, hentai stickers all over this to a jury. I don't want to do it. It's a factory gun. Everything's factory. It's the way Glock intended. It's a law enforcement carry round. I'm not explaining why some frangible, explosive, special, you know, virus, toxic inducing round was used. Well, I use what law enforcement uses. I use one of the most common pistols in the world. I use the bigger grip because I have big hands. Sorry. That's just easier to explain. It is. So, you can modify these. You can even stay reliable. You can get really nice triggers, agency arms, Apex, gun parts, to name a few. There's an unbelievable amount of Glock aftermarket. But, again, for who this video is geared towards, first-time shooters, new shooters, maybe you've shot before, but you're getting kind of serious about your collection, please don't modify your go-to pistol. Highly recommend against it. I just can't express enough how important that is that you leave it factory. Legally, mechanically, reliability-wise, you're just better off. And get good with that firearm. You get good with a Glock, you'd be good with anything else. Parts are available everywhere. Holsters are available everywhere. Magazines, ammunition. They work. They're reliable. They're not very expensive. This is like a $650 gun MSRP. I forget what I paid for mine, like $580. Excuse me, hiccuping again. I usually only buy guns that are a good deal. The finish is holding up nice. I've carried it for over a year. Got some stuff going on in the corners there. It's a little black from shooting it, light stained from carbon buildup. My extractor's a little worn, but the finish is holding up nice. It actually looks a little worse in real life than it is on camera. Like that spot looks worse to me in real life. It's just from holster wear, but it's a tool. Again, it's a shovel. This is not a diamond ring. It's not a watch. This isn't something you brag about. This is a life-saving defending tool. It's not modified. It's not pink. It's not Pokemon'd out. It's a tool. So treat it as such, and it'll treat you well. Thanks, guys. Till next time, be safe.